Hello and welcome to a special interview for The Wire. On Saturday, Reuters released a story about how a consortium of national laboratories tasked with genome sequencing called INSACOG had forewarned the government in early March that they had high concerns about variant strains of coronavirus that were particularly contagious and which they believed were in danger of taking over the country. And that report, Reuters claimed, has either been ignored by the government or at least not properly acted upon. So today we ask, was such a warning given by INSACOG to the government, and how did the government respond? Joining me to answer those questions is a member of INSACOG, the committee that gave that warning, and the director of the Center for Cellular and Molecular Biology in Hyderabad, Rakesh Mishra. Dr. Mishra, let's start with that report released by Reuters on Saturday, which sadly has been largely ignored by the Indian media with just one or two exceptions. The report says that as far back as early March, INSACOG had forewarned the government that they had high concerns about variant strains of coronavirus that were highly contagious and were in danger of taking over the country. As a member of INSACOG, can you confirm, was such a warning given to the government in early March?
The way INSACOG is a consortium of 10 government labs, and nodal lab of this is the NCDC, which is related to Health Ministry, and this consortium funded by DBT. So it's all government thing, and we have meeting every alternate day where we discuss what is happening. We submit data every day, and we try to make sense out of it. And these meetings are attended by everybody, DBT representatives, NCDC, all the 10 labs. So 20, 30 people attend this meeting. So everybody is in loop, almost constant basis. Then these meeting gist is then conveyed through NCDC to the Ministry of Health, to whom they actually are reporting. So I understand there is a continuous flow of information on a daily basis from INSACOG to the government sources.
Can I interrupt, sir? Can I interrupt?
Yes.
Can you confirm that in early March, INSACOG communicated to the government a warning that you had high concerns about variant strains of coronavirus that were highly contagious and were in danger of taking over the country? Was such a warning given by INSACOG in early March?
This concern was raised because we were detecting new variants. We were detecting UK variants in the airports and some in the community. And I understand these minutes are seen by appropriate or relevant people in the Health Ministry. So now I can't say that we have sent in writing where I am a signatory of warning, but our findings of the variants is really a kind of warning that we are heading towards a worse situation, because these are new variants are very dangerous because we don't know them.
I'm interrupting again because I think it's very important that the audience should be clear about what you're saying. You said this concern was raised.
Yes.
You also said you're not aware whether a formal letter was written because you weren't a signatory, but you added this concern was a kind of warning. In other words, INSACOG did raise this concern in early March, and in raising this concern, it was a kind of warning. Have I understood that correctly?
Yes, you have understood correctly. In fact, we should appreciate that INSACOG was formed only for this purpose. That look at the genome, do the surveillance of the genome if there is anything of concern. That's why we are reporting on a daily basis. So in fact, all our thing, and we never said that the situation is comfortable. So
can I ask you this, Dr. Mishra? When this concern was raised, who was it raised with? The Health Secretary, Dr. V.K. Paul, the Health Minister?
I see this because the meeting content is conveyed to the government through NCDC. So I think Dr. Sujeet Singh must be conveying it to whatever is their protocol, because all the press note, everything, they have some system to follow. So I think it goes, they have a channel, and I can think it must be going to the Secretary Health, but I may be wrong on that one.
Okay, you're very clear again. the concern was raised to the National Center for Disease Control, whose director is Dr. Sujit Kumar Singh, and you believe that he would have raised it in turn with the health secretary. Do you think
And
this concern would have also reached the Prime Minister?
I would think so. I think Prime Minister is very receptive and he has very strong communication system. So I'll be surprised if this thing don't reach. After all, INSACOG is designed to raise the concern, to pick the information, do the analysis and convey to the government. And he being the top in the government should be told. I have no way of knowing whether he was told or not, but I assume he should have been told. It's important.
Absolutely. He's the head of the government. INSACOG was created for the very purpose of giving the government this sort of advice. You would be very surprised if the Prime Minister was not told of your warning. In other words, we must logically assume he knew, he was informed. I have been told that the language used by INSACOG was high concern. Those were the words, high concern. Reuters actually quotes those words. But I'm also told that at the level of either the health secretary or the cabinet secretary, those words were diluted and watered down, and something much more mild was further conveyed. Is that correct?
But I don't know what was conveyed. It was high concern, there is no doubt about it. Now, how it get translated into a mild concern, because that we have seen the disasters in UK by then, and cases were rising, and we were very concerned, and we were almost dreading that something bad will come, because the very reason that new variants is not only that they will cause more infection. New variants come with new kind of threat. They can lead to more severity of disease. They can threaten our vaccine program. There are lots of concerns. Luckily, none of that has happened so far. But that doesn't mean we are safe.
Can I stop you there? As you said, and I'm quoting your words, we were very concerned something dreadful could happen. Can you spell out what were your fears? What were your concerns in early March when this warning was communicated by INSACOG to the government? What were your concerns and fears at the time?
See, the disease was spread all over the country, small numbers. So there are many. This was not like first wave that is going from one direction or from the airport. Now we have the infection all over the country at low level during those periods. Second thing is, lots of people are having seropositivity. That means they have protection, and virus will try to break through that protection. Vaccine program is starting, and then some people are partially vaccinated. Again, the virus will try to break through those, because it is the virus always tries to infect as many people, and we have shown that this virus mutates efficiently. When we analyze some 6,000 Indian genomes, first batch of 6,000 in, I think, in January sometime, we had reported that there are 7,500 variants. So which means the variants are very prolific. This virus is very prolific in producing the variant. That means we are always looking at new problems if we let the virus play the way it is doing.
In a nutshell, can I sum it up like this? In a nutshell, as you said, after you had examined some 7,500 genome sequences, you found that the variants were very prolific. Those were your words. Variants were very prolific. So in a nutshell, your fear in early March was that this disease could begin to spread and increase exponentially. Cases could go up exponentially. That was your fear.
Yes, sir. The exponentially, not only that, it can be more dangerous, more mortality, and my main concern is vaccine program. If we let the virus play in a very large number, that means we are having a huge reservoir of the virus in our country. So huge reservoir virus means more mutants will be formed, and although almost all of them will be failure, but one or few that will be successful, they will be a big trouble for us, because that's how virus evolved.
Absolutely. So can I ask you this then? Given that your fear in early March was that the disease could begin to spread exponentially, that in turn would be making the disease more dangerous, there would be more mortality, and if the disease spreads, there would be more mutants, and that itself was a danger. If that was your fear, Did you give the government suggestions or advice about what they must urgently do? Did INSACOG also recommend a course of action?
Uh, I'm not sure if INSACOG is mandated to give a course of action. For there are strategy groups and there are experts, epidemiologists and clinicians. There are advisory groups for the government. We are research institutions. Our expertise is to do the biology of this, do the genomics of this, and figure out what is happening and pass on this information. We are not equipped actually to tell what to do. It's common sense that.
I understand, sir. It's not part of the mandate of INSACOG to tell the government what to do, to advise the government on course of action. Your mandate is to actually examine genome sequences and tell the government that the position is becoming worrying and threatening, and that is what you did. However, the Reuters report released on Saturday quotes Sujit Kumar Singh, the director of the National Center for Disease Control, who, as you say, was the person to whom INSACOG communicated this warning. And Dr. Sujit Kumar Singh is quoted as saying that he told the government urgent action was needed, otherwise the situation could become dire. The exact words Dr. Sujit Kumar Singh used, according to Reuters, are the following. It was highlighted very, very clearly that unless drastic measures are taken now, it will be too late to prevent the mortality which we are going to see. In other words, Dr. Sujit Kumar Singh clearly told the government urgent action is needed, otherwise we will have huge deaths.
Dr. Sujit Kumar is very sincere, knowledgeable, and I must say conservative man. I have worked with him, so I will go by his analysis, and because he is also epidemiologist, so we give him genomic information, and he can then extrapolate that to the population scale and disease context. So I would trust him.
Can I ask you this? Do you have any reason to doubt Reuters' claim that Sujit Kumar Singh gave this clear, blunt warning to the government? Do you have any reason to doubt it?
No. I think these are the things we have been discussing as a friends and the meetings, and I'm sure as a concerned citizen, he will convey it, whatever we feel. We may be wrong sometime, we may be over frightened or overconfident of certain things, but we will tell what we feel. Then there are other mechanisms to figure out.
Yeah. Let me then ask you this. This warning was given by INSACOG in early March to the government through the National Center for Disease Control. You believe it would have definitely reached the Health Secretary. You find it very hard to believe it would not have reached the Prime Minister. So let me ask you, what was the response from the government? What did the government respond and do after this warning reached them?
So government respond is I'm as much privy as much access as you, because government response will be seen in public. And although on the TV, in the advertisements, on the in the publicities, many from many points you will be hearing that wear mask and take care and hygiene, go for vaccine, all those things. But I think we didn't do enough. See, there are two things. It was very, very clear that there is a danger and it is threatening us, because the cases were increasing. Late February, early March, when cases start to increase, the danger was in front of us. Either people take care of themselves, and if they are not doing, then it's system responsibility.
Can I interrupt again? Reuters, in the report they released on Saturday, make it clear the government effectively ignored this warning. That is the import of the Reuters story, that the government ignored the warning. The government did nothing.
Well, I mean, see, I'm not a news gatherer and analyzing, but what I see is what we do in the lab in our institution and what we see outside, what is happening in society. What we knew from our research that new variants are coming and they may pose new threat, and therefore it can be very bad situation. And outside we are seeing that everybody is behaving as if there is nothing. So,
Absolutely. That's the important point.
yeah.
Everyone continued to behave as if there was nothing. Doesn't that mean, Dr. Mishra, that the government ignored your warning? People continued to behave as if there was nothing.
I mean, government kept saying that keep testing more, do more RT test. Government said that go for vaccination, we will vaccinate everybody. Although so on paper or at least to some extent it was happening. I think main problem has been the communication and demonstrating that we have to take care. Like I don't see why there should be even 50 people allowed in a marriage. 2 people are enough for a marriage in these situations.
I agree, sir. Let me put to you 4 or 5 questions about what actually happened after you gave this warning in early March to the government. First of all, there were multiple political rallies with tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people right through March, and in the case of Bengal, right through April. And these rallies were in Kerala, Assam, Tamil Nadu, and as I mentioned, Bengal. And secondly, there were huge Shahi Snans in March and again in April where 2 or 3 million people were present. Now, after INSACOG had given this warning to the government in early March, was it proper for such large gatherings to continue, or was it risky and unwise?
I will say even if INSACOG was not existing, these were not acceptable because the cases are increasing. With INSACOG, we knew there are new kind of dangers are coming. I think we are going through a situation where these things can be postponed or delayed, or because I don't think these things can be done with the control numbers. I don't know what are the way out. The election may be necessary. If there is something new, one can do that. But as a common man, I think any gathering in this situation is not acceptable. It's certainly not what we expected to happen in our country. Now we have been pushed
Let
to really.
me give you another example, Dr. Mishra. You, INSACOG, gave this warning to the government in early March. Shortly thereafter, the health minister, please note my words, the health minister of Assam publicly said there was no need to wear a mask in Assam. And then the chief minister of Uttarakhand said that faith in God and the power of Mother Ganga would keep bathers at the Shahi Shnan safe. Now, after your warning, what do you make of this sort of advice from ministers and chief ministers?
I mean, I can only say that the same God has given us brain to think and do what is appropriate. And ministers saying don't wear mask is I don't think it is acceptable. I just cannot imagine that anybody in public platform should say that don't wear mask, because Karan, that's the only thing that is going to save us. How much damage will happen because of this pandemic will depend how well we use mask. Nothing else is as important today.
One more question. As late as April the 17th, when coronavirus cases in the country were increasing by over 260,000 a day, the Prime Minister told a rally in Asansol in Bengal, I have never seen so many people before. He was actually congratulating the crowd for the large numbers that had turned up, and there they were on television, without masks, without social distancing. After your warning to the government, what do you make of the Prime Minister reveling in the size of the crowd he's attracted?
That's very unfortunate that first up these kinds of things were happening, election and rallies. In fact, later rallies were called off. This should have been done earlier, and yeah, it's very unfortunate that we have seen these kind of things, and we will be seeing more trouble coming because of These rallies, the result of these exposures will come after a couple of weeks or 3 weeks.
So, the Prime Minister's comments in Asansol on the 17th of April, when coronavirus cases were increasing by over 260,000 a day, was unfortunate. It was an unfortunate thing for the Prime Minister to say, particularly if the warning from INSACOG had been made clear to him. And remember, that warning happened 5 or 6 weeks earlier.
Yeah, so I mean, what I mean is that having an election rally and gathering of people was unfortunate. This in any situation. I mean, one can say many things, but I think very simple. I keep repeating. INSACOG warning was one thing, but when the cases are rising at this number, you just mentioned those days 2 lakhs, 3 lakh cases are going. I think we should have just frozen everything because that's the only way of doing it.
You know, your advice that rallies should have been shut down, that it is impossible to hold rallies without people intermingling unsafely, that advice fell on deaf ears. Let me tell you what the Home Minister said. He was asked about the question, are rallies fueling the virus? And he said he doesn't believe there is a connection between large political rallies and the spread of the virus. And his example was, look at Maharashtra. The cases are growing hugely in Maharashtra. There are no political rallies in Maharashtra, but in Bengal, he said, where he was at the time, there is no problem. How do you, as a member of INSACOG, respond to that answer from the Home Minister?
I think he was not given proper feedback and information because virus doesn't care whether it's election rally or religious rally or marriage rally or it's a bar or restaurant. Wherever there are people together, if somebody is infected, virus will jump from one to other through the aerosol. That's how it happens. There is no question that virus will not spread in election rally and virus will spread only in mall or in cinema halls. And Maharashtra has gone through multiple simultaneous things like local elections, opening of local trains, marriage parties. I mean, there have been cases where everybody, 50, 100, 500 who attended the marriage were infected. So we knew there is a more infectious bug around. And if you come together in clusters, you are going to then spread it in very, I mean, we opened a school and that's how children got affected so much.
Opening schools was a mistake.
This is very, very delicate question you ask. To me, it is more difficult question you ask. Children are at home in the apartments for more than a year. They are getting psychologically affected. But you open the schools, they go, they are not adults, even adults are not following COVID approved behavior. They go, they play, they have been totally frustrated. So they want to play, they even exchange masks as a friendship. So it's very difficult to control children. Opening school is a thing, but if you could manage, and we have not been able to manage, our school are crowded, teachers bring infection, then children bring infection home. That was in retrospect a bad idea, but at that time I wouldn't have said, I kept saying the same thing that opening school is important, but whether it is safe. And
Can I put this to you? We've reached a situation, Dr. Mishra, where 3 days ago, coronavirus cases grew by 408,000 a day. 408,000 a day. We have epidemiological forecasts being made by eminent epidemiologists like Brahmar Mukherjee in Michigan or Gautam Menon here in our own country. And they are saying that when we peak in mid-May or the third week of May, we could touch 5 or 6 lakh cases a day. Brahmar Mukherjee says the range could be higher at 8 or 10 lakh cases a day. My question is a simple one. The BJP has announced that tomorrow, the 5th of May, they will be holding a nationwide dharna. In these circumstances, is it sensible to hold a nationwide dharna, or is it playing with the country's health?
I am not aware of that. If dharna means people clustering together, that shouldn't be done. It's as simple as that, whatever may be the cause, because we have already brought miseries to people because not being able to control the rate of infection. We cannot convert whole city, whole country into hospitals. I think we have got saturation there. The only way now is to stop the spread of the virus break the chain of the virus and all out we should go for that like a war. There shouldn't be anything else happening. Only thing should be how to stop this virus, and everybody should work towards that. I think any other political thing, any other avoidable thing which are required, they can be postponed. We can settle our scores later, but at this time we have to save people, because we have seen so unfortunate thing happening, people dying for oxygen. We are not a trivial primitive country. We send our satellites to moon, we send our things to Mars, but if we cannot save people by giving oxygen, which is a trivial thing in a normal situation, that means we are caught off guard, and the scale of thing has just inundated us.
Said Dr. Mishra, a very important thing about the dharna the BJP plans to hold nationwide tomorrow, May the 5th. You said, at this time, our prime and first and only duty is to save people and their lives. And you added, we can settle our scores later. That's a very important thing you've said, because the dharna is being held in protest against what the BJP claims or alleges is violence done by the TMC. And your reply is, save lives now, that's the most important thing, settle your scores later. Let me go one step further. In early March, when INSACOG warned the government that cases could increase exponentially, you were also at one remove telling them that when that happens, hospitalizations will increase hugely, mortality will increase hugely. So at that time, should the government also not have made plans to expand hospitals, to increase ICUs, to add considerably to ventilators, and most importantly of all, to estimate how much oxygen would be needed and to ensure you had enough? Weren't those steps the government should have taken in early March when you told them cases are likely to exponentially increase?
See, you're right that we should have improved our infrastructure, but the scale in which we have entered, I don't think any level of infrastructure would have worked. Our focus should have been to go for a kill. When the virus was down, go for a kill. Don't let it come back. Again and again and again, all of us have been saying that virus is down but not out, and it can come with vengeance because it will come with new variants,
Sir,
which will be known to us.
I take your point that no one could have anticipated the size and scale of the second surge. No one could have anticipated we would be growing at 400,000 cases a day. But what the government did in February and March was to dismantle facilities it had created to handle the first wave. The DRDO center and the Satsang Beas center in Delhi were dismantled. The jumbo facilities in Mumbai were dismantled. Surely, dismantling facilities was the wrong thing to do, particularly when INSACOG was advising you that there's a real danger cases are going to increase exponentially. So, the very act of dismantling was a terrible mistake.
Yeah, I think that was a miscalculation. It's not only our warning. We have seen what has happened in UK, and they had to go through national lockdown, and they could manage with difficult. And imagine they have got a very different kind of more efficient infrastructure and resources and so on. It's not only the government who actually dismantled things. Even private hospitals that were treating COVID patients, because the numbers started to go down. And remember, other diseases have not reduced. Other medical care that is required has not gone away. Those were waiting and waiting. So people started turning towards that. So that was a miscalculation. I don't know if there was a way to imagine this will be situation can be.
Again? I really apologize for the number of times I'm interrupting. You see, there is a big difference between the government dismantling facilities they've created and the private sector doing so. The government has access to what INSACOG is telling them. And the government defied the warnings from INSACOG when it dismantled facilities rather than build them up. The private sector doesn't have access to what INSACOG is saying. The private sector will simply go by what they can see. And if they see cases coming down, then they'll say, we don't need to keep so many beds. And this brings me to the key question. The government deliberately did not share with the people of India the warning INSACOG had given it. And perhaps they didn't do so because they didn't want the country to panic. but by keeping the country ignorant of the enormous danger lurking on the horizon, the government also ensured that people would behave irresponsibly, not wear masks, gather in large numbers, not socially distant. Now, do you believe the government's failure to share your warning with the people of India was understandable, or was it another mistake? Should the government have warned the people, treated them as adults, and said, look, this is the danger, we're warning you, please act safely? It didn't do that. Was it a mistake?
See, the conveying correct information in effective way is very, very important, and that has long-lasting effects. If we don't convey properly, then first and most damaging thing is loss of credibility, which to me is more damaging. Of course, later something comes, immediately there is a protest, there is a contradiction. So, because we have got into an environment that what to trust and what not to trust. So that's why it is government to go over, in an excessive way to communicate effectively and the correct thing, whatever it is. Because the unfortunate thing,
The situation was
go ahead.
it's not just that the government didn't communicate effectively. The truth is, A, it didn't communicate your warning at all. But more importantly, B, it didn't take your warning seriously. Its own behavior in terms of allowing Shahi Shnans to continue, political rallies to continue, health ministers in Assam saying you don't need masks, home ministers of the country saying that I don't believe political rallies have an impact on the spread of the virus. All of that shows the government was in denial. It had advice, it had warnings from its own scientists. It refused to accept them. It in fact denied them. It did exactly the opposite of what was required. I'm going to ask you a question, and I know it's difficult for you to answer because you're a member of INSACOG. Did the government behave irresponsibly in not accepting your advice and in the way it behaved?
I would say differently, and that government, whether government conveyed or warning to public, I don't think government need to convey the warning, but government can take the leap from there and plan the action and act. That is what is expected, because government is not just a post office to pass one letter to other, INSACOG to public. And so that I don't mind that if the same thing is not published or not told, but it should be acted upon and it should be evaluated. I think like many other, you can see many experts saying that the system failed to imagine that this problem could be this high. Problem is there, nobody ever denied that, except some exceptions, that Corona has gone and it not come back, and that's why we are doing for vaccine. That was obvious thing. But I think to translate these informations and ideas into a strategy.
Can I interrupt?
Yeah.
You're saying the system failed to imagine the problem could be so high, so big. I'm going to ask you bluntly one more time. Your warning that cases could increase exponentially, that hospitalizations and mortality would increase, was communicated, you believe, to the health secretary. You cannot believe it wasn't brought to the attention of the prime minister. Yet, political rallies continued, Shahi Shnans continued, health minister said you don't need to wear masks, the home minister said there's no impact of rallies on the spread of the virus. The prime minister himself on the 17th of April was reveling in the size of the crowd. I ask you again, was this irresponsible of India's politicians?
I am not in a position to judge the government and politicians, but I can tell that if we have seen how New York has gone through, what Italy has gone through, what Spain has gone through, being so well advanced, every time we were been telling that if cases increase, we will have difficulties. We don't want crowding. This virus is not that dangerous. Mortality is less than 1% and so on. But if you have thousands and thousands of people, people will not die because of the virus. They will die because of the oxygen, because they will not have access to things. And that's what is happening. We should have controlled that. Whether people take the matter in their hand and take care, they have been told many times. or there should be lockdown, or there should be army on the road. I don't know.
I pushed this question about whether the government was irresponsible in not responding properly to the warning 2 or 3 times. I leave it there. Let the audience judge for themselves. This is a democracy. People have a right to hear questions. They have a right to hear the answers. Every Indian has a right to come to his own conclusion. Let the Indian people decide whether the government paid heed to your warnings, responded adequately, or was in denial, and in being in denial endangered the country's health and behaved irresponsibly. Let people decide that. Let me, before I end this interview, come to the variants that are threatening the country. There are 2. First, there is the UK variant, which I believe was first detected in January. Do you believe today it is the dominant source of the spread in Punjab and a major factor in Delhi as well?
Yes, you're right. So in Punjab, most of the infection are, there are estimates from our INSACOG data that it may be 80-90% of the cases are UK variant, that is B.1, 1.7. And there is, in fact, that is how the genomics and this kind of research tells us that this variant came from UK by travelers in certain groups. And then, so you can, it's not only the variant, actually genome data, even you can trace back this is spread to some degree. Then these people had congregations, whether it was a marriage, whether it was a farmer thing, or whether it was a political, we can't tell that. And then those participants of these congregations are clustering went to districts and all. So there are, you can see 1, 2, 3 steps of spread. And that's how.
So in Punjab, the UK variant is 80 to 90% of the cause of the spread. What about Delhi? Is the UK variant a major factor in Delhi as well?
Delhi also, it is a major, I think it's 40% or 50%. These numbers keep changing, and these are only projections based on how many, you can't sequence all. But it was avoidable, this I can tell you, because in Hyderabad, we are doing, everybody who comes from abroad, they are tested, and if they are positive, their sample is sent for sequencing, and unless we know which variant it is, they are not allowed to leave the airport. And in Andhra Pradesh and Telangana, even today, UK variant is very minimal, because those people, hundreds of people have been retained on the airport because they were UK variant positive. We were the first one.
Very important point you're making, Dr. Mishra. Andhra and Telangana and Hyderabad have a large number of people coming from the UK, just as Punjab and Delhi do, but Andhra, Telangana and Hyderabad were cautious and meticulous in ensuring that the UK variant did not spread. Clearly, Delhi and Punjab did not show the same sense of caution and concern, which is why the UK variant has spread to 80-90% levels in Punjab and 40% levels in Delhi. Let's now come to the double mutant, as it's called, although that's a misnomer. It was first detected, I believe, in December. It became a cause of concern early this year. Newspaper reports say that it is both more easily transmissible and possibly more resistant to vaccines. Are those reports correct?
So the 617, the B.1.617 that you are referring to, the Indian variant, it was first detected actually in October. But those are the sample collected in October. So that means it has been around for some time, and because of the controls, because of many other factors, it was not encouraged by people to spread so much. So this was around, but it was not spreading. Later in February and March, when we opened up and lots of interaction, this virus got chance to spread. Please remember, virus, no matter how dangerous or how infectious they are, they can do nothing unless we help them.
Absolutely. But what about my 2 points?
Yes, I'm coming to that. So these, yeah. So the Indian variant is transmissible, more transmissible than earlier ones, but probably less infectious than the UK variant, because we are seeing wherever UK variants and Indian mutant variant is there, UK variant is dominating. For example, in Delhi, it's majority this one. They can play out because, as I said, these viruses mutate very fast. later one may become stronger, one may become weaker. But at the moment, if you ask me, from the whatever we understand, UK variant is most infectious. Indian one is less infectious, but more than any other. In Bengal, for example, it has completely replaced the 618, more or less. 618 was a major variant maybe a month or two back. Now it is only Indian variant, which is a 617. So it is more infectious than other, and it is also spreading its footprint in Karnataka and now in other southern states.
What about the concern that 617 is more resistant to vaccines? Do you believe that to be the case?
No, no, we have tested that in the lab, and both Covaxin and Covishield are protective against UK variant and double mutant. We have tested this in lab. Others have also tested. I understand ICMR has done, and even phase 3 trial of Covaxin has shown that there is resistance. But I want to your media, I really want to convey this, that we should not celebrate it. We should consider ourselves lucky, because it can happen later. A variant will come which will undermine the vaccine protection. So we have to, only thing that we have to do today is to stop this by whatever means.
This concern that you've just expressed, that we could end up with a new variant one day that is resistant to vaccines, is a direct reason why you warned the government in early March that an exponential spread of cases is dangerous, because when cases spread exponentially, there's a bigger chance for mutant variations to happen, and one of those mutants could end up being vaccine resistant. That is the fear. It links right back to the warning you gave in March. One more question about the double mutant. Is it the principal cause of the spread in Maharashtra?
So Maharashtra, actually not. I have different belief that I don't think a variant is cause. Cause is people's behavior. Variant is a thing. It's like somebody is running towards you with a gun to threat to kill you. You don't want to ask whether it's AK-47 or AK-48 or what. You have to just run. Any variant is dangerous, and it can give rise to a worse variant.
I take your point, sir. But newspaper reports, quoting Dr. Shahid Jamil in today's Business Standard, that is to say the Business Standard of the 4th of May, say that he believes up to 60% of the genome sequencing done in Maharashtra is of the double mutant variety. That means it spread to a fairly extensive level in Maharashtra.
No, the very fact that its footprint is increasing, that means it's more infectious than other variants. That's all. But whether it's the cause of this, if the 60% cases are because of this, 40% are because of something else. 1 month back, it was 20% and 80% was something else. So we are giving scope for the virus. This one is taking more advantage. Others are taking less advantage. And in the end, we will see this whole landscape changes. After some time, you will see one more variant will spread over.
Absolutely. We're coming to the end of this interview. I have time only for one last question, but I want to underline something you said earlier. You've tested in laboratories, and both Covishield and Covaxin are effective against the UK variant as well as against the double mutant, which we know as B1617. In other words, both vaccines had in India are effective against the two variants that are spreading, the UK variant and the double mutant. My last question, in these circumstances, we're growing at something like 360,000 cases a day, but that may only be because testing on Sunday came down by 3 lakhs. You could find that tomorrow we go back to 400,000. In these circumstances, do you believe we need a prolonged nationwide lockdown, or is the present system of 1 week or 2 week regional lockdown sufficient?
I don't think viruses go by weekend or week or day or night. We have to take more strict measures. I don't know whether national lockdown is a solution, because the misery it leads to. Last time, probably we were less prepared, and it was heartbreaking to see people walking. This time, maybe it is worse, heartbreaking to see people dying in the hospital for oxygen. So we have to take now a call. And I think something closer to a major lockdown is required. We just cannot let this happen we cannot keep making more bed, more emergency hospitals, more import of oxygen cylinder. Those are really limited things. So we must do everything possible, as I said, to break the chain, break this spread, because that's the only thing that will stop the number. I mean, reduce the number, and we can come back. There's no
Thank
other.
you, Dr. Mishra. You've been very clear and forthright, and I thank you for having spoken so candidly and so boldly. You believe stricter measures are necessary, as you said, something closer to a major lockdown, because the virus does not respect 1 week or 2 week lockdowns. But in particular, I thank you as a member of INSACOG for confirming that in early March, INSACOG did warn the government that the new variants of coronavirus that were more contagious were threatening to take over the country and urgent action was needed. And thank you also for, in your answers, agreeing that the response from the government was a lot less than what was required. I thank you for your openness. I hope the candor with which you've spoken does not put you in any trouble. Take care, Dr. Mishra. You're an
Thank you.
invaluable person. Stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you.
ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ವಿಡಿಯೋಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ಪ್ರತಿಧ್ವನಿ ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಚಾನೆಲ್ನ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಬೆಲ್ ಬಟನ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ.